do you even identify a company is for sale, or how do you even go about approaching some? So, you mentioned that the deal you did last week. How do you know they're even interested in talking to you? Is it literally approaching people and just saying, "Hey, we're on the acquisition trail"? What do you do?
The answer to that one is almost never happens. It's never a cold calling. What happened? I spend probably half of my time in networking, meeting, engaging with people, going to talk. We one of the things that we talk about a lot at Babble is we want to have a reputation as being a really good buyer, a really good acquirer of businesses. And a lot of that is about the deal, but it's also about what happens afterwards. Most of the businesses that we are acquiring are long-term single or small group ownership, and they're really important to the people. That is them, that's their life. So them knowing that we're going to look after it and take care of it and taking care of the people. So one of the big wins you get out of having a reputation around that, and that reputation being demonstrable and referenceable, is the fact that you can go back and talk to the sellers after the event, and you can have a conversation with them about, is there anybody else that you think I could talk to? Would you recommend us? So we encourage people. So we encourage people when they're thinking about selling their business to whoever you're selling it to, go and talk to somebody else who's been acquired by, who's been on the other end of a deal. Just check what the experience is like, and check what the experience is like afterwards. But if you look at the 4 deals we've done this year, one of them was an inbound to me on the back of a press release of a deal that we did 2 years ago. So I got a message on LinkedIn to say, I know X. My business is just like X's business. Can we talk? 2 years later, we did a deal.
Wow.
Deal number 2 was an introduction from a seller of a business that we bought last year. So the day we did the deal, I got a phone call to say, person X. In fact, Mark at ABC in Stockport has called me to say, can you introduce me to Matt? So I got an introduction. So I get a warm introduction in there. The third transaction we did was an introduction from somewhere else. And the fourth deal we did was also an introduction from the. So all of them are connected. And if you look at the 9 last year, and I'm going to test my memory here, one of them was somebody I'd got to know who was doing a bit of sourcing, who was doing some networking in the industry. So that was called a buy-side advisor who will go and look for stuff for you and meet people, and you get a warm introduction there because they'll know somebody. There'll be a connection somewhere. There are people out there doing cold calling in, but you tend to find that there needs to be connections around all of that. So number 2 was a corporate finance, and it was a corporate finance where the sellers had mandated a third party to sell the business for them. So that was number 2. Number 3 was similar to that, but it was a corporate finance firm that we knew, and they knew we were a really good fit. The 4th one was another process. And then the rest of the things that we did, every single one of the other deals that we did last year, bar one, was introductions. But this idea that we build a network, and we build an alumni of people of sellers of businesses who know how we do things and how we go about things. We have a very, I think some people would describe our process as being a little bit tedious at times, and I'm sure from a seller perspective it feels a bit like that. It doesn't feel like that when the deal gets done. Nobody minds. I use the analogy of passing a driving test. That I failed my driving test, my car driving test the first time. I failed my motorbike one more times. I'm too embarrassed to admit how many times I failed that. But when you fail it, that's a disaster. Oh. And the second you pass, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you failed in your head because you've crossed that line that you need to cross to get there. So introductions in the main, referenceability in the main, not being a dick, when you're dealing with people. You take a business that you're buying into exclusivity, and that there is an argument that you see you get someone this close to the finish line, and then you change the terms, and there'll be a view that says, well,
why are you doing that?
Because you can save a bit of money. But the risk is that person then isn't a reference for you. And that does happen. Because stuff changes, but doing it because you can take advantage of the situation doesn't sit particularly comfortably. But you develop a reputation. That there's a massive industry of corporate finance firms that are out there marketing themselves to sell as a business, marketing themselves to buyers. But more than half of what we do is self-sourced, and that I think that's, I'm going to say it's unique. I have no idea whether it's unique or not. That's a bit special. The other thing that we recognise and we're very transparent about is that we will pay what we think a business, we will offer what we think a business is worth, regardless of whether it's a competitive situation or not. That number will be the same, and I can explain to somebody how I get to that number in a way that they would say, yeah, okay, I buy that. So getting to meet people, building relationships with them, spending time with them. It's if you were to go and talk to people who we've done deals with, they will tell you that the thing that they felt warmest about when they were deciding who they wanted to work with was the fact that we put energy in and effort into making people feel comfortable. I will get my car and drive to Wakefield and meet somebody for lunch. I'll fly to Glasgow and meet somebody in Scotland. And that's kind of and for me it's not very different from solution selling. You're building relationships with people. You're understanding what their wants and needs are, and taking them on a journey that allows them to develop confidence in you as a person that they're happy to deal with. We have some very clear criteria about stuff that we will do and we won't do, and if it passes muster on all five of those, we will push very hard to make things happen.
Before you had that reputation, and it's great that you're getting these sort of referrals and the reputation for doing that, but when you did the first few deals, maybe in COVID, it must have been more difficult because you weren't seeing people and maybe you didn't have the reputation of doing these deals. So how did those first few deals in the 2000 go? So 2020?
Bearing in mind that I've been doing M&A now since 2004, I did my first deal. Right. So, when I went to work for what was Stepstone in 2003 and set their solutions business up, their software business up. I joined there 2003, middle of 2004, we decided that we wanted to bring we wanted our own identity and solutions, we wanted our own product. And we had to go out and find businesses then. And, the first deal that I did was with a business in Scotland called Obvious Solutions. I bought a business off Alex Klein and David Geddes were the two big shareholders there. And I'd got to know them over 18 months working with them. We'd won some business together at the Bank of Scotland and various other places. They were doing some very early innovative stuff around using video as an interviewing tool and a competency-based interviewing tool. So we won some stuff together, and we'd known each other long enough that they trusted me to do the right thing. And then our second deal after that was a deal that we did in Norway, and that was just about the number. We just had to pay more than anybody else did for that deal. The third deal was the company I worked for previously, which was iGrass, which was in Harpenden, just up the road. And I used Alex and David as a reference there. So I spoke to the shareholders there who I knew, who I'd worked for, and if we look back on that very first deal, that Obvious Solutions deal that we did back then in 2000 and I'm going to say 2004. It was right at the end or the beginning of the year. I can't remember whether it was just before or just after Christmas that we did it. But we didn't make a huge amount of money out of that transaction, but that became a reference point for us to be able to do a load of other stuff. So I used them as references, and I did 9 deals in my time at Stepstone over 10 years, in the UK, in Europe, in the US, and in Asia. We bought a business in China as well. And when I did our first deals here, I got those people to go and talk to the buyers that I bought those businesses from back then. I said, well, go and talk to Andy, go and talk to Damien, go and talk to Alex, go and talk to Jetto, go and talk to Thomas, go and talk to Karsten, go and because they'll tell you that if I say I'll do something, I'll do it. And I don't think you can underestimate the value of being recognized as being somebody who does the right thing.
Yeah.
I'm used. I know if I pick the phone up to 90+ % of people I bought businesses off, they would give a really positive reference about their dealings with me. You've always got some people who will be disgruntled with the outcome because for a variety of reasons. I sit very comfortably in my skin that I've not done anything that doesn't, if you look at our values at Babble's values as a business, number 3 is doing the right thing. We love to win, but not at all costs, so we always do the right thing. And I feel very good about that. And anybody who is, and I'm saying 90%, it's probably closer to 99% than 90%. There'll be a couple of people who will feel slightly chagrined by what's happened, but the vast majority will say. I had breakfast last week with a shareholder of a business that we bought in April last year, who we had a deferred contingent amount that was part of the deal. The way we structure our deals differently, and sometimes we have deferred payments, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have contingent-based deferred payments, sometimes they're not contingent. This was contingent, and it was a material amount because of the way the business contracted with its clients. So what we're always looking for on that is to make sure that what we get, what we end up with, is what we thought we were going to buy at the price that we said. And the conversation. In fact, I met 2 of the shareholders last week, and one of them said, I wrote off that. I just didn't think I would see it. Everybody told me you never ever see those second payments. I said we always, and that's not quite true. We almost always pay almost all of it, if not all of it. And our intention is if what you've told me is what I end up acquiring, I will give you all the money I said I would give you. Now, we pay the vast majority, I'm saying the vast majority. We always pay a majority amount up front, and most of the time we'll pay, a close, 70, 80, and sometimes 90%, depending, and it all depends on what we're getting. But you leave a little bit in there just because it de-risks, because, diligence, you can spend as much time and energy diligencing from the outside. You only really find out what you've got once you get in. And most of the time, it's fine. And most of the time, we are massively positive about every single deal that we've done. And I think we've got one transaction that we did where we don't still have a member of staff working with us, and they didn't have any employees, and we hired 2 of their ex-staff. It wasn't quite technically it wasn't an asset purchase, but to all intents and purposes it was an asset purchase. We bought the shares, but all we bought was a book of clients. We don't have any of their staff working with us, but every other deal that we've done, we've got multiple staff still working with us in our business. Of those 250 people that we'll sit in a room with tomorrow, my guess will be more than half of them will have come from acquisition.